Hello! And welcome to the Bechdel Theatre podcast.
The podcast where we talk about gender and representation on stage.
I'm Pippa.
And I'm Beth.
And we're your hosts. This month, we snatched a chance to talk to Isley Lynn, the writer of the gashingly good Skin a Cat.
This is a play based on her experience of having vaginismus, a condition which makes penetrative vaginal sex extremely painful. If you couldn't tell from our fanny puns, despite being about a painful topic, this play has a whole lot of laughs.
Listen now to hear the story unfold. But we also spoke about being pigeonholed as a female writer, promoting the play on mainstream radio shows where you can't say vagina.
Vagina, vagina, vagina.
That reminds me of in Lion King where they're like, Mufasa, Mufasa, Mufasa.
Vagina, vagina, vagina. And also about how it felt when she had invited her parents to come and watch the scene in which she first discovers the joys of anal sex.
And on that note, we shall hand over to us and Isley.
So, thank you for joining us, Isley.
Thank you for having me.
How are you today?
Fine, yeah. Had a nice stroll here because I live not too far away from where we're recording.
Walking distance?
Yeah, I mean 40 minutes, but I like a walk.
You walked for 40 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice. Especially because it's sunny today.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's lovely.
That was a good choice.
Yeah, thanks.
What's a week like in the life of Isley Lynn?
A week. There is no real week. Like, there's definitely no schedule. So right now, Skin a Cat is touring, and I am not with it, but last week I was with it in Bristol. So I had like 3 days of travelling connected to that, and I had some meetings, and basically what I'm trying to say is very little of it is actually writing.
I was going to say, are you able to like write wherever, or do you need to be in a writing space? Because I think you are the first person who is solely a writer as their job on this show. We've had people who do write, but not just a playwright that is fully a playwright, full-time playwright on our podcast before. So where do you do it?
Well, a lot of different playwrights write in different ways. I'm not one of those people who, gets up at 9 and is at their desk writing by 10 o'clock and all that sort of stuff. Or earlier, I have a couple of friends who have full-time jobs and they write in the wee hours of the morning, and that is just so gross to me and I don't know how they do it. I personally just jot shit down when it comes into my head and put it in like a physical folder that I keep under my bed, and there's one folder per project. And then when it's hard to close the folder, I know that there's a play in there. So I then get out all the pieces of paper and the napkins and the, backs of receipts. I sort of spread them out on my bed, and I just look at what I've come up with until that point. And I go, oh yeah, that I keep thinking about this thing, so I should think about that thing some more. And okay, this bit is good, but in order to have that bit work, I need to have a scene where this happens, and blah blah blah. So it's very much I'm not a hard worker, basically. I'm very undisciplined, but I mean it's worked so far.
Yeah, I mean if it just comes to you when it comes to you, then so is that how Skin a Cat started? In a folder?
Yeah. So, well, Skin a Cat, so I wrote the first scene of Skin a Cat when I decided that because my experiences of sex growing up weren't represented, I was in a position where I could do that. So I decided I should do that. I wrote the first scene, I got shit scared. I didn't look at it for about a year. And then I sat down and said, okay, I should at least finish it, and then no one has to know. No one has to see this. My parents don't have to see the scene where I have anal sex for the first time. But then I did finish it quite quickly, and Skin a Cat was different because I was making notes on it and putting them in a folder, but a lot of it came quite easily, and I finished the play in about 3 months. Normally I take about 9 months to finish a play post the noting period.
Wow, and it's like each play is a baby.
Oh yeah, no,
Skin a
it's
Cat was
absolutely
a very fast one.
I don't remember who it was. Some rad theatre lady was saying that writing a play is like giving birth or having a shit. Like it's this bodily thing, and you gather all this stuff within you, and then you expel it. And sometimes it takes a long time, and sometimes it's easy, and sometimes it's pleasurable, sometimes it's not.
Skin a Cat just slipped out.
Actually,
if you
it
had
did.
to give Skin a Cat like an age of your child, is it still like? Does it feel like it's like an adult now, or does it feel like it's like a teenager, or
What a
is it still
question.
your child? Is it still your baby?
So it's absolutely not my baby anymore.
Okay.
It's got its second cast now that's
course.
touring it. So the lead is still the same, Lydia Larson, but she's now joined by Libby Rodliff and Joe Eyre, and they, in a new way, are making it their own, and it's still very much the play. But they're finding things in it that we hadn't seen before, and they've done things that have allowed me to like tweak a word here or there. It's really, really exciting. Different voices particularly, so one of the characters went from Irish to Welsh. So I think it's been alive in various guises for about 2 years, and I think when it was at the bunker, it was a teenager who had like discovered themselves and was like coming out to the world fully,
Experimenting a bit with their identity.
yeah, but with confidence rather
Yeah.
than like maybe I'll cut my hair, you know.
Yeah.
No, they sort
Was
of
that
knew
at
who
the
they
vault
were.
when they were like, maybe I'll cut my hair?
Yes,
maybe
Vault was definitely
Yeah.
like, I'm getting my first piercing. You know. I think they're now in their mid-20s, and they're settled in who they are, but that doesn't mean they can't be flexible. Like, oh, I don't know. This might be just pure projection. I think it's figured out who it is now, and that's opening up a whole new world for it.
And have your parents seen the scene where you first try anal
yeah,
sex?
yeah.
What did they think?
They came at the vault, and then afterwards I had dinner with them before going on. They saw a matinee, and then I had an evening performance that I had to leave for. But before I left, they said it was the best thing I'd ever written, and that was lovely. What the more shocking thing was that they'd brought my neighbours, which I knew they were coming. But the other person who showed up was my my secondary school English teacher.
Oh my goodness.
And there's a bit in Skin a Cat where I talk about how the PE system when you're in sixth form was so badly nonchalantly organised that I wouldn't do PE. I would just go home and have sex with my boyfriend. So obviously they knew that, and they knew the boyfriend, and they knew the boyfriend's mother, and they knew, all that stuff. So that was anxiety inducing.
And there's several like boyfriend relationships, friendships in the play, and also your mother is in the play. How closely are those characters based on real people, and how kind of much are they adapted to be characters?
So most of them are like funhouse mirror versions of the real people. So for example, the final relationship with the older man is a version of my partner, but he wants everyone to know that he does not wear a Buddha around his neck, and he's not that much of an arsehole. Which is true, like he's not an arsehole at all. But the character is. My mother is absolutely nothing like that character at all. That's the only major departure. Also, my dad isn't dead. So,
just easier to have fewer characters, or you wanted to?
I didn't want to muddy the waters with more than one parental relationship and more than one sort of gender in the parental relationship, because it would have just been it would have been a different play if I'd had to do that, had to acknowledge that, then I think it would have been I couldn't do it basically. And there was also something cleaner about having all the men in her life be romantic prospects, pretty much, and
Apart
the
from the
women.
university friend.
The university friend,
Yeah.
but there's still the main connection is talking about sex and romance and
Yeah.
that kind of level, whereas the women in her life are a real range of people and how they influence her life. I was talking about something very specific, and I thought having a dad in there would be too complicated, but maybe I'm just not as good a writer.
No, I think that's an awesome thing to be able to write your, like, take your autobiographical story and look at it with your writerly eyes and like snip out the bits that don't tell the story in the most kind of easy and like short, confident way. Like rather than, because there are a lot of, I think there is a lot of stuff that's either autobiographical or biographical. I'm thinking not just about plays but about films and TV shows where you see stuff that's in there and you think it's only in there because it's true. It's not in there because it serves the story. Absolutely. And I think it's amazing to be able to have enough insight into your own, something that's so close to you, to be able to go, no, she doesn't need to have a dad.
Well, someone asked me, you know, how do you decide what's going to be interesting for other people? How do you know what's not just interesting for you? And I answered her by saying that's fundamentally not the question. The question is, does the truth serve the point you're making? And if it doesn't, cut it or fictionalize it. You have authority, especially when it's your own story, to do that. Maybe not when you're talking about other people and when you're adapting like other texts or other if you're adapting a film or something, it's harder to do. But with your own life and your own experiences, you're in control, completely in control.
That's amazing, because I feel like we've often had, following on from that, like had conversations where we feel like some writers have maybe needed some kind of dramaturg in their process because it's so close and it's so autobiographical that it's hard to see like what that storyline is. But the fact that you are so good at doing that, even when it's like your own life, is amazing. How is it when, you know, you say that you have elements of true people in your writing? Do you have conversations with those people before, like, do you just kind of go free and are like, I'm gonna write this play and it's inspired by these characters, for instance, like your childhood friends who might have been in it and or seen themselves in it? Like, I would be really nervous personally, but I don't know what that's like.
So I didn't tell anyone.
I think that's what I have to do.
First of all, change the names. The names. I have a playwright friend who wrote about her family and she didn't change the names, and oh my goodness, the talk around the Thanksgiving table with her family was charged. Let's say it was charged. It led to a big rift. But I mean, more than that, I think if I were to use someone else's story in a way that was different, or if they became the villain, I think I would have a conversation with them. But frankly, I'm not really in touch with any of the men that come up on this play. I knew that I didn't have to check with my friends that they would be happy with the portrayal of them in the play, and they're absolutely thrilled. One of their favourite lines they remember saying...
The university friends is this?
Yeah. So one of my dearest, oldest friends said to me that she picks toilet paper off her flaps. And that is one of the best lines in the play, hands down. It's not mine. I mean, it is mine because everyone picks toilet paper off their flaps, obviously.
Yeah.
But she's just fucking thrilled.
That's her legacy.
And it always gets a laugh, like, every time.
I always hope that those kind of, like, offhand comments that I write, I'm like, oh, I'd love it if someone wrote that into a play.
I've never had that thought before. Damn it.
I'm always going, okay, I'm going to write that in a note. Are you okay with me stealing that? Especially, like, other playwrights, you have to be really respectful, actually. You have to be like, are you going to use that? Because otherwise I will use it. And then sometimes they say, no, I'm going to use it.
Oh my God.
You have to sort of negotiate that.
Yeah, when playwrights get together.
Yeah, for sure.
So the journey of Skin a Cat has been over the past couple of years. How has it been kind of coming back into it in the last year and kind of developing this tour? Because you've gone to so many different kind of spaces. Did you go to Brainchild?
We did go to Brainchild.
Yeah, because I was at Brainchild and I couldn't I basically had to leave the festival for a wedding. But I really wanted to come see it. But I was wondering like how it is doing things like touring to like a festival in a field. And
I
that
heard
kind of
you couldn't
audience.
even get into the tent in Brainchild.
Yeah, because
I heard a rumour.
Yeah, my girlfriend wanted to come and she was like just there like as it was starting and she was like I couldn't get in.
Oh, great. Oh, I wasn't there, so I don't know.
Right, okay, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know about that specifically. What has been interesting on the tour is that we try to make sure someone from the creative team is there at every location, so that if there are weird staging changes, like one of the venues we're at is in the Round, some are end-on, some are thrust, some are very small, some are very big, some of them we've had to mic up for, so Latitude, Brainchild and Edinburgh actually we ended up having to mic up for. and it's just about the reason I think I called the play a 25-year-old is that we're able now to roll with the punches, and it's in the actors' bodies in a way that isn't in danger if we suddenly say, okay, you have to stay on stage right instead of stage left. And in fact, what's been nice is that we've had to make some of those calls, and they've led to permanent changes in the way we stage the show. So that's really exciting. So yeah, I think when you have a team that loves each other and is confident in what they're doing, it's easier to take things in your stride and to adapt to spaces and to audiences. The other thing is that if we have a small audience, either because of the capacity or because of ticket sales, and there's not the sort of raucous laughter and stuff, it's important to remember that the play is therefore operating as a straight play with funny bits, and it doesn't mean that the audience aren't as engaged, and we still see as many tears and as many standing ovations in those smaller shows, but then when it's raucous laughter and totally full, then it's a comedy with sad bits, and both operate together equally.
And so the reception of Skinner Cat has been incredible. I only ever see people saying good things about it and how much they love that show. How has it been for you in this like amazing journey that you've had? It brings up a lot of personal experiences for people that they haven't seen represented anywhere else.
And I think people reach out to you. I've seen like a lot of people on Twitter kind of expressing something that's very personal to them and trying, feeling a strong connection with you as a human. Does that feel like a weight to bear, or does it feel exciting?
So my journey with it has been great. People ask me if it's exposing or if it feels confronting to have people know so much about me, and I always say no, because I've been so rewarded for being open, honest, candid, gross about myself. So yeah, it's brought me a lot of positive, good things. I do have a lot of strangers emailing me, a lot of women who've had it or who have it.
Vaginismus.
Yes.
Yeah.
For anyone who's listening who hasn't seen the play.
The play is about vaginismus, which makes penetrative vaginal sex painful or impossible. And I have it, and I've always had it. So often women email me about it, and men email me about partners they've had. I also end up talking about anal sex a lot, especially for... I've had a lot of conversations with gay men, because basically penetration is difficult for everyone, actually. And it's a negotiation for everyone. So yes, I know a lot about other people's sex lives now, but they know about mine, so that's fair. It doesn't feel like a burden. What's been interesting is this last iteration, 3 people have got in touch saying, "Have you tried Botox?" And so I don't know if
my jaw just dropped.
What?
I don't know if it's a new treatment or
Botox in your vag.
Yeah.
What?
But isn't the point that it's a psychosexual condition?
So I can understand why it's being offered as a treatment option, because especially for people who've had successful vaginal penetration before and they've developed vaginismus, it is important just to reset your relationship with that activity and that part of yourself. And so if you can just shut off the muscles and have successful vaginal sex, you can sort of reclaim, like, okay, this is possible, I can do this, it's achievable. Having said that, from the perspective of someone who's never had successful penetrative vaginal sex apart from 30 seconds when I was 25, I am not, and also as someone who has written a play about deciding for yourself what sex is, can be, and what you want out of it, I am not going to inject my vaginal wall with Botox so that I can get a dick up me. That's just not what I'm going to do.
It feels
Also,
like they missed the point
not
of the play.
point of the play. Exactly. Like the conclusion that your character, that the character in the play comes to is, oh, actually, I'm happy without having this thing, and it's not necessary to my sex life.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. To have penetrative vaginal sex. That's like it. That's the whole. The point is, she doesn't want to be kind of cured of this thing, which is just part.
Yes, I think. So I agree with everything you've just said, and I would add that it's well-meaning, I'm sure, There is a point in the play where there's a sort of list of treatments that she can opt in for, and it doesn't include Botox because that wasn't offered to me when I was looking at treatment. So maybe they think, oh, she just doesn't know. But also, if you've had penetrative vaginal sex before, there's more of a sense of loss. For me, it was a sense of being broken fundamentally because I've never had anything inside me successfully, not even a tampon or a finger or anything else. So I think there's a different relationship with that activity, especially if someone's had pleasurable vaginal sex before and that's something they miss or something they want to reclaim. So I just don't want to... yes, that's not the point of this play, but also they're living their own life that doesn't follow, my play is not everyone's lives.
Yeah, you don't want to denigrate anyone who does want to have the Botox.
Exactly, great, fine.
But it's just weird to watch your play and think that you would want to.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I don't, just for future emailers.
It's definitely like, I don't have vaginismus, but the reason I connected with the play so strongly was because I think most people have had something in their lives that they've felt like there's something wrong with me, and they've realised, oh wait, I don't have to change myself, I can just be myself.
Yes.
And self-acceptance and self-love.
Yeah.
So I feel kind of sad that someone can come out and still think that you would want to change yourself.
I'm wondering if the Botox is also something that the NHS
Maybe
suggests.
I think it
it's
is.
a private thing. Oh,
I
is
think
it?
no,
Yeah.
I think it's an NHS thing. I think that's the development in treatment in the last decade.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is amazing how it can be about something so specific, and people will still take this as a play about vaginismus and miss the kind of wider thing that I found so obvious, that when I remember the moment I watched that last scene and I was like, this is not just about vaginismus.
Mm-hmm.
This is about feeling like you can have
wrong.
control over your own choices, and you can, make a kind of decision about your life without having to take into account everybody else's expectations. And that just hit me like a wave, and it didn't matter that I didn't have vaginismus to get to have that emotional connection with it.
Yeah, and how much when you're having sex with however many partners you do, the amount that society is there with you in that room, in that bed with you, you're not just two people or however many people, you have all this baggage of what society, and even if you think you're there, it's like there's a lot of eyes with
and
you.
I think it's also important to remember, for me, that I saw that play in 2016 when it was at Vault. I didn't even know the topic because Lydia was in it, and I was friends with Lydia, and I was like, let's go and see a play that Lydia's in. Did not know it was about anything to do with vaginas or sex or self-acceptance, so I didn't go in with expectations like that. But also, it was in a time where I don't think I was thinking a lot about sex in the way that we do #PostMeToo, where there's a lot of public conversations about consent, about choice, about where the boundaries lie between what you are doing because you're choosing to and what you're doing because you feel pressure from either society or the other person. And I think watching it again a couple of times over the past few years, I think I've become more aware of that kind of conversation happening. But it's amazing that Skinner Cat got to me before I really was conscious of thinking about ideas like consent. And I mean, obviously I knew about consent, but I still thought of it in the
yes, no,
say
binary.
yes, no binary. Yeah, exactly. I really definitely hadn't thought that deeply about my own sexual interactions and stories that friends had told me about having so-called bad sex or trying to please sexual partners in a way that maybe wasn't right for you.
There's a really good article, I think it's called The Female Price of Male Pleasure or something.
Great title.
And it was doing the rounds kind of, when last year, and it kind of really, really talks about this idea of what guys say is bad sex and what women say is bad sex, and how there's just the different relationships of what we understand and what we do with that. But
we need to include a link to that because I would love to read that.
Yeah, I'll show it to you. It's really good.
I'm really moved by what you're saying, both of you, that you took away from the play, because this play, where do I start with this? So I think men especially are afraid that it's not for them, and it absolutely is for them. It's for everyone. It's not just about female sexual experiences. It's for anyone deciding for themselves what they want out of sex and life, and trying to get society out of the bedroom with you, out of the room when you make those decisions. And that's also about your career and your friendships and your family and your health and everything. And I've always been quite confident that people would have that experience that you described, which is, especially at the end, seeing this as the metaphor for wider conversations that it should be. And just recently I've come up against conversations where people have been saying, oh, well, it is a bit niche, or it is a bit, because it's about vaginismus, it's a small play with small residents, or very specific residents for a specific audience. And specifically, this has been a conversation about my career and the fact that I haven't had a proper commission yet, and why that might be. And I think it's not because it's about vaginismus, because if I take the male equivalent, and if there was a similar play about male sexual dysfunction, then I think that would more readily be seen as the metaphor for masculinity and society that it is. And so I think actually it's about gender. I think women's stories, whatever the specifics of them, and in this case it's vaginismus as the metaphor for everyone's experience, women's stories are still seen as small, niche and specific. And it's been really difficult and confronting to hear that from industry professionals, many of whom are women, saying, well, this is a really specific small play for small audiences. Can you write something more big, more political? And I think they're wrong. And I think it's patriarchal misogyny about what stories are valid that is so ingrained that everyone is sort of looking at it through that lens. So yeah, it's just heartening to hear you go, it's a big play, it's about everyone. This metaphor at the end does speak to everyone. It's reassuring that I'm doing my job.
Yeah, of course. No, yeah, that's how we've both felt. And to also think about that it's specifically about female sexuality and a woman's experience with her vagina, but I feel like whatever kind of genitals you have, or whatever gender you are, and whatever sexuality you are, it's still, as Beth says, it's still something that's going to speak to you, whether you're a woman who doesn't have a vagina, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
There's no one that it can't appeal to. I think, is angering. You have that experience. I mean, what are the biggest audiences that you've had for Skin a Cat, and how has that felt different?
Do you mean in terms of
like numbers? I'm
bums on
wondering, like,
seats?
what are like the biggest venues that have like taken you on?
Oh god, I don't have those figures in my head.
Yeah.
I mean,
you had a big venue at Edinburgh.
Yeah, because that was a big space.
We did. I think it was over 100 in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
And the Bunker is about 110. We sold out that show. We had one London show in the Bunker as part of this tour. We sold that out a month in advance, so they added a matinee, which is now also sold out. So it's not. Organising this tour has been a real fucking ball ache, because a lot of people see the show as risky, niche, and confronting and challenging. And I don't know.
I'm furious.
Yeah, most people
absolutely
have sex,
raging.
You know?
Yeah, like
most
and
people have sex.
then even if they choose not to, that's still something that is reflected in you get to make that choice. And there's it's about life choices and ownership of self.
Well, I don't
something literally that can be
these venues. I don't know their audiences. They definitely know their audiences better than me. But when they describe the audiences that are going to find this show difficult, I'm like, look, those people lived through the 60s and 70s. They can handle this. They can absolutely handle this. And
there's this weird paternalising of older people.
Yeah, I know. And so my partner is 70, so there's none of that from me. He gets it. We can all get it, I think.
Just bring him out and be like, he enjoyed the play. He is a representative of your demographic. Please, for God's sake, give it a chance.
But I also, I don't know how else to. It's got 5-star reviews out of its asshole.
And it's selling out despite
It's
going on the BBC
selling
and
out.
not being able to say the word vagina while
That was
publicising
fun.
it.
That was so fun.
I saw that tweet and I was like, Isley said, I'm going on the BBC today, gotta be careful not to say the word vagina. And I was
why can't you
like,
say vagina? Did they tell you that? You're
Yes,
allowed
they
to say
did,
that
yeah.
word?
Yeah.
Are you allowed to say penis? Is it?
Well, I mean, technically, I'm allowed to say all those things because they're not slang or curse words, because
Yeah.
they're medical terms. But they just asked me if I wouldn't,
Okay.
because it was
asked
BBC
you.
Bristol, and it was like the late afternoon, and I think they opted for the term physically intimate, which is all it was problematic. Anyway, the point is, it's a successful play that speaks to a lot of people, and a lot of reviewers and everyone else have said it's universal. So I don't know what else I can do to say, no, it's a safe bet. You'll sell tickets, and I can do my job, and you should pay me in advance to do some more of my job. So I don't know what else I can do. Just wait for someone to decide to trust me, I think.
God.
speaking of doing your job, are you working on anything at the moment?
Yes.
Anything you're allowed to share?
Yeah. I'm always because I work in that sort of weird collecting scraps of paper way. I'm always working on a couple of different things at the same time. So I've just finished an engagement with High Tide on their first commissions program, where I wrote a play called The Swell, and that had an outing recently in the form of 2 readings, and we're looking for a home for that. We've had some positive noises. We'll just see if any of them turn into positive action.
What's it about? What's the
It's
tagline?
about we see 3 gay women when they're in their 20s and when they're in their 40s and 50s. So across 2 timelines.
The same women
The same women,
growing
yeah.
up.
And it's essentially a love triangle. And we see what happened in their 20s, and then we see the sort of ramifications of that 20 years later. And it's got some beautiful choral singing and breathing moments that I'm really excited by. And yeah, I was really proud with what we did with it. And again, I'm waiting to see how that's going to be received by the bigger venues, because it needs a bigger space. It's certainly a graduation in terms of just space. It deserves. It's not a studio play necessarily.
How many in the cast?
6. And I think I'm just waiting to see if people see it as the metaphor for how we take care of ourselves as a society and how we take care of each other and what that looks like, or if they see it as a lesbian three-way and therefore niche and small and female, So I'm very spooked by this whole conversation with regards to the rest of my work. And then the other thing I've got on coming up in January is an adaptation of War of the Worlds with the new diorama.
Ooh.
Yeah, so this is cool. So it's a devised piece, so I am one of 4 creative decision makers. So the buck absolutely does not stop with me, and it's absolutely a creative endeavour. But what's fucking cool about these folks is that this company, Rhum and Clay, are basically 2 boys. Yeah. They're really fun, really cool. And they heard that Skinner Cat was good, asked to see a video of it because at that time it wasn't performing, watched it and said, "Oh yeah, we loved your play about vaginas. Do you want to do some science fiction with us?"
Amazing.
And I'm like, yes, mate, I do. So that I have so much. I just think they're so cool for making that decision, because most other people are like, "So do you have any more vagina plays in you? Do you have any more awkward teenage sex? Ooh yeah, la la la." But no, they were like, "Yeah, of course you can do War of the Worlds with us." So that's
I love
really
War of
exciting.
the Worlds.
Yeah, do you?
Yeah, I really am a big fan, so I can't wait for that.
Okay, good.
Oh my god.
Well, I'll get you
You
in.
don't get enough sci-fi on stage.
You don't.
I know.
think people are scared of budgets to do with it, but you don't need.
You really don't. It's imagination.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I'm working on at the minute, and then I'm also working on a bunch of other stuff all the time. What I would love is for someone to. I was talking to my agent today actually, and basically, if you're a commissioned writer, you get a grand to start off with, and then you get some more money when you deliver a first draft, and then you do rewrites and deliver a second, and then when they auction the play, you get the last of your money, and that's sort of 6 to 7 grand, that whole process. If you write a play yourself and then it goes on somewhere, they skip all the beginning money and they just go straight to the optioning. So you essentially miss out on 3 to 4 grand if you write it yourself and then bring it to a theatre. And so every time I do something on my own and then get it on, I'm losing 3 to 4 grand.
So you're doing it for free until it's...
Yeah, but then, so like if you make a table, someone can ask you to make them a table and pay you £1 grand to make a table, right? And then also if you make your table on your own, you can sell that table for the same amount of money. But plays, it's not the same. So you don't recoup the expenses of writing it when you get it optioned for performance.
Yeah.
So it's frustrating that I'm still in a position where I have to do the thing on my own and then get it on, because I think I've proved that I can do the thing and that I will do the thing well, consistently, and I'll sell out shows a month in advance, etc., etc.
Yeah, like what more do they need?
No,
like,
exactly.
come on.
Yeah. But I am far from alone in this, and it is gendered, and it is a race issue as well. It's a class issue. It's all the issues. So yeah.
That's so exciting. Where was that on again? Or you don't know what's happening?
War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
No, it's going to be at the new Diorama.
Oh, that's it. Yes.
Part of their next festival.
They are doing such
Not
great
festival,
stuff.
sorry, season. They are the coolest folks around. They were extraordinarily helpful with Skinner Cat back when we got Arts Council funding finally for the tour of Skinner Cat on our 6th go, and part of the reason we got it, I'm sure, is because we had a lot of allies pushing for it. One of which was David at New Diorama, who said, "Oh yeah, I'll help you with the application." I don't think this is a confidential story. I'm going to tell it regardless, because David Byrne is a goddess. He said, "Oh yeah, I'll help you with the application," and he got someone to look at it and offer feedback and help us hone it. And I only found out later that he paid that person to do that. He didn't say that's what I'll do. He wasn't planning on letting me know that that's what he was doing. I just found out. So he is, an angel.
Yeah, I went to one funding application workshop with him, and it was when I just submitted an Arts Council funding application, and I went to this workshop and I came out of it going, well, I'm not going to get my application. I know that now, because I learned so much in the space of however long it was I spent in the room just listening to him and looking at his printouts about what to do and what not to do, that I was like, I knew so little before I came in this room. It was unbelievable how much knowledge that man just shares out.
Why is it also guarded though? Why can't we all know this information?
Exactly.
The mad thing that I learned that I think this is bonkers, is that we all know it's random who reads your application at any given time. What I didn't realise is that you're not guaranteed to have someone from your discipline looking at your application. So it's a random group of great people in their field, I'm sure, but you might have 2 dancers, a sound artist and a museum person, and they're all looking at theatre, and they don't know necessarily who you're talking about, what you're talking about, what the landscape is like right now.
Or your venues and understand the significance of those people, those places.
Yeah.
So then for people who are kind of worried that their show is similar to another, what I think especially with feminist work, it's there's that one piece about that one subject that no one else can do anymore because you've done it once.
Oh yeah.
But actually that's a bit helpful in that sense, because you'd be like, I don't have to necessarily be compared to this piece, because someone seeing the application wouldn't know it necessarily.
Yeah. But
yeah, bloody hell.
I think also, I don't know, sometimes it works that way, that you're seen to be doing the same thing that's already been done. But to be honest, I'm so jaded by the whole deal and the whole industry that I think it's actually more likely that people are going to go, oh yeah, that worked before, let's put our money behind that.
Yeah.
Not just the Arts Council, I'm talking the whole industry. It's the Fleabag effect,
tried and
isn't
tested.
It? It's women and they're talking to people and they have sex. It must be Fleabag.
Oh.
It is Fleabag.
The amount of Fleabag references we saw in things
Oh
at
my
Fringe.
goodness.
We started going around looking at all the posters in the Fringe that were says it's like Fleabag, Fleabag-esque. Every single quote on a poster was it's like Fleabag, it's like Fleabag, it's like Fleabag.
And don't get me wrong, back in 2016, someone compared Skinner Cat to Fleabag, and I was like, great, thank you, very useful. And it was very useful. It sold a lot of our tickets.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say no to it, but it is reductive.
There are other plays.
Yeah.
Well, also, I have a little bit of a problem. I love Fleabag, and the preface to this is I love Fleabag, okay? So can we just establish that? I love Fleabag. I love all its iterations. However, it is about a woman whose sexuality is interesting to the audience, at least, because it is like a man's. not because it is her own. And that's like, oh, wow, how interesting. But also, the conclusion of that show is that she is sexual because she's fundamentally broken and sad.
Yeah.
And I find that a valid, important narrative to look at in the context of Fleabag. But then when it starts to be extrapolated to all these other narratives, and people say, oh, it's like Fleabag, to reference that, I just find it tricky, difficult, weird.
I wasn't a big fan of the TV show, to be honest.
Yeah.
I liked it as a play, and I thought that is, you know, in what it was, and in the way I think she kind of related to the audience, and kind of took us on a little journey, and on all the stuff about her friend and stuff unravelled really neatly. Whereas I thought with the TV show, I just thought, so long, everything was so drawn out, and I was like, maybe that's just because I prefer my entertainment in hourly chunks of theatre where I'm feeling a connection with someone in the room. But drawing it out into a TV show made me realise how much of this was like posh girl problems. And I just thought I felt so much more distance from the character when it became on screen, and I just thought it was really, I don't know, it was interesting how a lot of people suddenly connected with it when it became a TV show. They were like, oh, we know what Fleabag is. And I suddenly felt like, oh no, I thought I really loved Fleabag, but now I'm seeing it on screen, I'm seeing kind of all of the stuff that I don't connect with hopping out at me.
I mean, I didn't really connect with it that much because I didn't finish the TV show. I never saw the play, because it sold, like, you know, it's like as soon as it got really famous, I was like, oh cool, can't get a ticket. But yeah, I don't know, I just kind of felt like, there's only so far I can relate to this when it's a woman sleeping with loads of men.
Sure, yeah. Well, I guess there's like this Venn diagram of stuff happening, like barriers come up when it becomes a TV programme. And it's what I'm thinking about because I would love Skin a Cat to be adapted for TV. Like, it's a very big world that I have ready and waiting. Whether it happens or not is
it would I think it would be so good to be a TV show.
Thank you,
personally.
I agree.
Yeah, I think it would translate really well, yeah.
Thank you. I'll try and do... But I mean, it's useful to talk about Fleabag in this way and sort of to make sure that I'm being conscious of this because, you know, what you're talking about in terms of posh girl problems, when she's on stage, we can imagine her house, but now we see her dad's big house and we see exactly what that looks like actually.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then also, I mean, she does have more space to fill. And for me personally, I wanted to know more about the action of her best friend that leads to the big source of her sadness. But there wasn't any more exploration of that action. And I was disappointed by that. But again, that's just me personally. And then you've got your own personal lens on it. It's harder, I think. It's a different job. And I think, actually, the people who saw it in the theatre first and then on TV didn't love the TV show as much. And the people who saw it on TV first were like, this is me, I am Fleabag, and then got into the theatre show. So in that way, it's a great little gateway drug, I guess, to the theatre world.
It's also hard when you're like, the show is kind of like being pigeonholed as the only show that kind of tackles...
When it was on at the same time as Chewing Gum.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like,
which I actually didn't see as a play, so maybe I have a different lens on Chewing Gum in that I love the TV show so bloody much, but I never saw it on stage, so I'm like, I didn't have that transition moment where I was like, oh no, the house isn't like what I imagined.
No, that's a good point.
I wonder what the house in Skin a Cat would be like. Actually, that's an interesting thing about Skin a Cat is you mentioned the guy male friend's accent change from the cast change from when he got played as an Irish and then he got played as a Welshman in the current iteration of it, which I loved because watching the new cast, it was really interesting to see all those little changes, and that was something that popped out at me. I was like, oh, he's Welsh! I loved it. But I also loved the way Lydia uses her own accent as the lead character, and then her mum uses a Midlands accent as well. So Lydia's got this gorgeous Wolverhampton accent that I know she's really like keen on using and being proud of after being told at drama school that your accent is ugly. And I wondered if that was something that you envisioned for Skin a Cat from the beginning, that the actors would be able to put something of their own, whether it be an accent or a physicality, and whether you could envision it being played by all different kinds of people with different kinds of accents. And
oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So on the first day of rehearsals, Lydia asked me, are you thinking RP? Are you thinking like London? What are you thinking? And I was like, well, what is your accent? And she said, oh no, mine's Wolverhampton. No. And I was like, no, I mean, that's fine. Why not? And she was like, well, I just thought you wouldn't want that. And I'm like, no, I think it's fine. I didn't know it was an issue. I think I was naive and I haven't been to drama school. The point, I think, the reason I'm not a novelist is because I want other creative people to bring their shit to it and make it better. And also I think there's this weird, if we put someone without a London or an RP accent on the stage, then the story is automatically about where they're from, and that is so problematic. Like, people with real problems don't exist outside of London. Like, I say real problems, that's a shit shortcut word, but I mean that not every northern play has to be about the fucking mines or whatever. It just doesn't have to be that way. So if I can, like, I just don't see what the issue would be in having her have her own accent. So that has fundamentally informed the rest of the play in a way that I want to keep now. And as I think about its potential future life, I'm including that in my
because like I immediately jumped from I was thinking about the Fleabag transition of what her house looks like inside, and I immediately in my head went, oh, what would the house that she lives in, Skin a Cat, look like? And I was imagining like a house in Wolverhampton. And I was imagining kind of what kind of decor she would have and what era it is as well.
Sure, yeah.
Because there's the brilliant text message bit in Skin a Cat where they're texting and beep, and it's several different text messages coming through all at different times and the pauses between them, which is just is a thing that's very specifically relatable to a certain generation.
Yeah, just date it a bit, but I don't care too much.
Yeah, but it's like one of the only things in Skin a Cat that makes it in any way specific to a certain time or place.
Yeah, it's
such
true,
a subtle detail.
Well, I hope. No, go on.
Well, maybe one day, like however many years down the line, the conversation and hopefully the experience might be less relevant because society will have progressed.
Honestly, that's exactly what I was going to say. I want my play to go out of date and not need to be. I want people to not have to see my play. And actually, in the research, the first iteration in 2016, actors were doing their research and they were like, I found this sex-positive blog that had a cartoon about vaginismus and how you don't have to have penetration. And I'm like, great, great. I didn't have that when I was 15. I'm thrilled that it exists now. And I was a bit scared. I was like, oh, am I too late? But I mean, of course not. Of course I'm not too late. We've still got plenty of problems to think about in terms of like inherited societal scripts. But I would love my play to be redundant. That would be so cool.
We hope our work will be redundant one day.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's the aim, right? That's the point. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You mentioned the other creatives involved in the play, and I was wondering if you talk about your wonderful director.
Oh, please, can I?
Yes.
Please, I need a votive candle to this woman. Blythe Stewart is spectacular. She's just like the industry's best kept secret. Every actor that works with her is in love with her. Everyone that collaborates with her knows she's a powerhouse. She is the only person. So I shopped out the script to every venue, every director, and their mothers. Like, I just sent it to everyone, and everyone said some version of no. And especially directors, I had a few people who read it and said things like, the sex on stage is quite hard, so can it just all be reported?
I love the way you do the sex on stage.
It's all Blythe. She's
a genius.
She's a genius, and she looked at stuff like that. And so another piece of feedback was, I think you should narrow down how many characters you're looking at and really go deeply into their relationships. And basically every time I got a piece of feedback like this, I just thought, oh, well, it's not for you. Not because I'm arrogant, but because if they were saying the same thing, I would pay attention. But actually what they were saying is, I'm a little bit afraid of doing that. Blythe looked at all those elements and was excited by them. And I remember her saying, I have no idea how I'll do it, but I like that. I like that I have to figure that out. And I'm like, take it. It's yours. Take it from me. Do whatever you want with it, please. It's yours. And
she did her job.
She did her job. She did more than her job. She helped me make the ending better. She was the one who applied to Vault Festival, which is where we won the Pick of the Year. She is responsible for all of it. She's the only person who said yes. She's the only person who saw what it is and saw what it could be and wasn't scared of it. and we need more people like her. And basically, she should be running a venue, like she should, or a festival. She should be in charge
Does
of
she want to
something
be?
big. Yeah, of course she does. Of course she does.
I'm going to put that out to the universe.
What happened,
I want her to be in
what
charge of
happened
shit.
with that whole Haymarket shit? Like,
Oh god.
Oh God, what
Sorry.
has happened actually?
nothing.
Don't know. There's thousands of pounds just sitting somewhere in a bank account that.
It's been sold though, right? To
Yeah,
some person.
the Haymarket's fucking gone. Gone.
Is it alive currently? Is it doing anything now?
The Haymarket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has it got a show in
it?
I
It's
saw
just-
Heather's there.
Yeah,
Wait,
it's just
that Haymarket?
operating as a West End theatre
Wait,
under.
am I getting them
Yes,
mixed
you
up?
did.
Haymarket, the
yeah,
one with-
Haymarket is on
yeah,
the Haymarket.
Yeah, I saw Heather's there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just operating as a standard West End theatre. Nothing big was ever going to happen with the Haymarket. It's always going to be a bog standard West End theatre that receives, a bit of Shakespeare with famous people in it or a musical. That is what it is.
I mean, I love the idea of a feminist theatre, but like all theatres should have feminist theatre.
It's a massive old Victorian space in the
The
centre of
bar
London.
is so low for feminist theatre.
Yeah.
Like,
I know.
come on, how are we still not getting this right? Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure this has been thought of before, but I just thought if we were able to buy the Haymarket,
Yeah.
we could change the name to the Hey Girl. That would be amazing.
Hey girl.
Yeah.
I'd love it to be like a co-op anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Oh,
there are,
should we
there
just
are
go
no...
occupy it?
there
Should we
are-
just...
Well, it's got headers in it. It's fine. Like there are
Yeah,
plenty of
yeah,
other
yeah.
spaces that that can work. It's
Yeah.
just it's.
I was just thinking, where could Blythe take over?
Yeah, yeah.
But there's a lot of artistic directorships up for
It's very
grabs
true. I
at
know.
the moment in places that are established, rather than going into a empty old building that's probably falling apart and
Yes.
having to do loads of work just to make it a viable building.
yeah.
Yeah. Go on, Blythe. We believe in you.
So speaking of our favourite people we were talking about our favourite people in creative world, but feminist faves.
Yeah.
The segment that we always end on in our interviews. Who is inspiring us at the moment, or do you want to
Apart from Blythe.
Apart from do I start?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go for it, everyone.
So I at the moment, but also always, I think my core feminist fave is Annie DiFranco. She's such a basic feminist.
I don't know who that is. I don't think.
What the fuck?
Who
What?
is it? No, who is? No.
Really?
Wait,
You're
no, tell me
joking.
who they are, and
You're
then maybe I
joking.
do, and I just don't know.
She's
who
a
they are.
singer-songwriter. I am making you a mixtape.
Are
Yes,
you
please.
serious?
No, I don't think I know who she is. Is it an age thing? Is she?
Yeah,
is she older?
probably.
Yeah, she is. So for me, she was like my. She like opened the door. First, it was like Jagged Little Pill, Alanis Morissette.
Oh,
Yeah.
It was
yeah.
like
It's that
Oh,
era.
Yeah. okay.
females, but Annie DiFranco like blew open the door and destroyed the wall, and suddenly I was in like feminist utopia. She's not perfect because no one is, but she is damn near perfect. She's a great. I took my friend to a concert with her. And at the end of the concert, she said, "Oh, I get feminism." I was like, "Yes."
Is she like
she's killer.
intro to feminism?
So is she still writing and performing?
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's another powerhouse. She owns a venue now. She started her own label rather than sign up to The Man. And she has a lot of artists on that roster.
cool.
And she's
Cool.
great. She's great. I'm making you a
What
mixtape.
song?
What-
What is the one song that I should listen to?
Oh Christ!
What's on the mixtape?
I mean, I will listen to many, but
No, you can't. I can't be put
Okay.
on the spot that way. And also,
Okay.
it's impossible to answer. Like it's a false. No, don't ask me that.
okay.
I'll make you a selection because
Okay.
also she's not just like she's a very political songwriter. She was talking once about how she made this album that was mostly love songs, and they were like, "Where are your politics, man?" And she was like, "Oh, I just got distracted. I'm sorry." Like she's not just one thing. You know?
Why do people think that love, like writing about love, is like in some way like not valid?
Or not a political act
Or
either.
not
Like the way that
political,
she writes about it. Oh, I can't believe. I'm gonna break open your world. I'm gonna
Okay.
change your life.
Okay.
I'm going to change your life.
I'm ready for it.
Great, fine,
Okay.
good. Okay, so that's mine.
That's
Annie
yours.
DiFranco is like when I was a baby feminist. She
Yeah.
did it for me.
Okay. Cool. Who's yours, Bear?
Feminist singer-songwriter, speaking of, I saw the documentary about MIA the other day.
I keep seeing that poster. Is it MIA the singer?
Yes.
Great, right, because I've seen this poster everywhere, and I'm like, because it says the different, like,
Yeah,
I don't know, like, the
Matangi,
variations.
Maya,
Yeah,
MIA.
and then I'm like, is this about the MIA?
Yeah, it's all, they're all her name.
Right.
And it's just different kind of names that she's used in her life.
Yeah.
And so it's about her life, her growing up, and kind of how she became an artist and an activist as well. And like, I knew that she was, obviously I know there's kind of activism in her work and that she's, you know, known for being quite political and outspoken. However, I did not know this shit that she's got from pretty much America, but white male America, about them calling her a terrorist and stuff, because she's gone on American TV and consistently highlighted the plight of the Tamil people, and the fact that she was like at her kind of, actually I was speaking to somebody about the documentary and they were like, oh, I don't know who that is, MIA, and I was like, what? She's huge, are you serious? And then I was like, you know, fly like paper, get high like planes, and bad girls do it well. And they were like, oh, wasn't she like a one-hit wonder then? And I was like, no! She's got incredible back catalogue of albums. Like, get on Spotify right now.
She's also like older than you think she is, because she writes such current music, but she's like in her 40s.
She is, yeah. And that's one of the amazing things about the film on a shallow level is the fact that she does not age. There's films of her like as a teenager dancing in front of the camera, and the only way you can tell what year it is by what mobile phone she has. Like, you literally cannot tell how old she is. It's magical. But also like the absolute state of the shit people were giving her for going over to America and saying there is a genocide happening, the Tamil people are being murdered, look at these children being killed, and people going, oh no, we'll edit that out of your interview because people don't want to hear that, and then saying like, oh, don't buy MIA's music because it funds terrorism, and stopping her from coming into the country to do American tours and stuff. And then she got on the Super Bowl because Madonna invited her, and she was like duetting with Madonna, and she flipped the bird at the camera for like a second, and the NFL tried to fine her like £16 million or some dollars
As if
or something.
Madonna hasn't done that.
Yeah, exactly. They were like, oh, MIA, the bad girl, and like tried to sue her for denigrating their wholesome image, because she'd like stuck her middle finger up for half a second at a camera and some kids might have been watching. Like, as if that makes any difference to kids' lives compared to the shit that the NFL covers up. Players getting concussion, basically.
Early graves, not paying your dancers, all that shit.
Yeah. They're a nightmare. And so she basically was like, I'm not paying it because you're disgusting organisation. You don't have a wholesome image. And she got away with it. And it's just sexism because, you know,
and racism.
Yeah, exactly. Racism, sexism. So I kind of was aware of her brilliance, but less aware of like how much she's had to come up against to be the star that she is. So there was just so many layers to it of things to be like interested in, inspired by, just like, and amazing music, obvs. Yeah. So that's been on my playlist constantly.
Cool.
Who's yours, Pippa?
Mine is going to be, speaking of Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Killing Eve.
Oh yeah!
Oh my god!
I am on episode 5. Have you watched it?
Yeah.
Have you watched the whole thing?
I haven't.
No.
I haven't at all.
You haven't? Okay.
My parents love it.
I've watched 2 episodes.
Yeah.
In fact, sorry, just before you go into this, my dad was like, "So, Isley, have you seen this show called Killing Eve?" And I'm like, "Yeah, Phoebe Waller-Bridge." And he's like, "Yeah. It blows that, what's it called? There's a test." I'm like, "The Bechdel test." Yeah. So all of the women are really great, and the men are the stock characters. And I'm like, yes. My dad is sort of slowly opening the door to feminism.
Daddy.
Yeah.
He's getting it.
Yeah, he is getting it. So you love it.
That's great.
When
So
your
I feel
dad
like
references the Bechdel
an
test.
obvious takeaway from it is like, oh yeah, there's a really hot assassin. Which is what I take from it. No, but it's so for anyone who doesn't know what Killing Eve is, it's actually based on some books.
Is it?
Yeah, Villanelle series, I think, or a book, if not.
So it wasn't Phoebe's idea.
I only realised that because in the opening credits it said
based on
or inspired by.
Yeah.
So I don't know how true
I don't
it
know
is
anything
with it
about the
because
book.
obviously it's a series, so they've probably done what they wanted with it.
Yeah.
But it's not original writing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my god, Sandra Oh is phenomenal.
Oh my god. See, I didn't watch Grey's Anatomy, but now I'm like, I feel like I need to like watch all 12 series of it or whatever, because I'm like, and she should have got the Emmy, but I haven't watched The Crown,
so
Claire
incredible.
Foy probably deserves it. But
Who got it instead of her?
Claire Foy.
Oh, fine.
The Crown. Who gives a crap about
Apparently
the royal
it's good
family?
though. I've never watched it.
No, I'm never watching that.
Yeah, my brother told me to watch it the other day.
Oh,
He's like,
for
Pip,
God's
I've
sake.
started watching The Crown. He's like, not the kind of guy to watch something about the royal family. And he was like, I think you really like it. I'm like, yeah, I probably would, but like,
No.
yeah. I'd rather watch Killing Eve. So yeah, Sandra Oh plays the main protagonist, and she works for MI6, but like not a spy. I don't actually know what her job role is. Investigator, I guess, maybe. And she has to track down a like international female assassin who is amazing. I've forgotten the actress's name. Jodie Comer, who was in My Mad Fat Diary. Is that what it's called? So like, I think it's like the biggest thing that she's done, and it's
She was
incredible.
great in Mad Fat.
Was she?
Yeah,
Yeah,
she was.
I've heard
I
that.
never watched that.
It's really good. You should watch it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably should.
I thought that at the time. But...
Yeah. Anyway, it's an amazing thriller. I think it's like 8 episodes or something. It's one of those things you're going to binge watch. It's on iPlayer, so you can watch it anytime. I highly recommend.
Great stuff.
I think that's everything.
I think that's done. We're done.
Thank you so much for joining us,
Thank you for
Isley.
having me.
It's been lovely chatting.
Yes.
And thank you for skinning cat.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for skinning
You're
cat.
welcome.
Yeah.
Skin a Cat is still on tour, going to Cardiff next at the Other Room from October 8th to 13th, and then the Stephen Joseph Theatre in Scarborough from October 19th to 20th.
So, following on from that, our roundup of feminist shows that we think you should see in the next month or so. First off is Kingdom at Camden People's Theatre, which is by the creators of Peck's drag collective, Temi and Celine. They have created a show about 2 queer best friends who share a room together, which is on October the 9th to the 11th, so that's very soon. Also, there's As You Are Festival, which originated at CPT, which is touring, headlined by Billish by Milk Presents. You can listen to our podcast with Leo and Lucy if you go back some episodes. So that's touring to Derby, Peterborough, Exeter and Poole.
And speaking of the wonderful Celine of Peck's and Kingdom at CPT, Celine has also directed an immersive dining experience called Divine Proportions, which is on at the Vaults until January 12th. And that also features some amazing performers, and you get fed as part of it. So it definitely sounds like it's worth a ticket price.
Also, we got to see a wonderful sneak peek scratch night performance of Medusa, which is Alf Lyons' new show, which is on at Nuffield Theatre in Southampton, October the 11th to the 13th. It's hilarious, it's intelligent, it's imagining Medusa as this kind of rock goddess, but yeah, just basically it's amazing. That's on at Southampton. Hopefully it will go elsewhere, but if you know anyone there, please send them in that direction.
Speaking of mythical creatures, coming up at Battersea Arts Centre, Bryony Kimming's first solo show in a decade, I'm a Phoenix Bitch.
I hear that as I'm a Phoenix bitch. I don't know
What
why.
does that mean?
I don't know. It's just I feel like it should have an exclamation mark at the end. Well, I'm a
Phoenix bitch.
Oh no, you're right. You
have to say it in like your most like Bryony attitude.
True.
Like, don't mess.
Yeah, true.
That is on October 3rd to 20th, and we're going to see it on the 18th.
We are going to see it on the 18th.
So
If anyone else
say
is
hi.
coming. You can also get restricted view seats at Battersea Arts Centre if you can't afford the slightly more expensive seats, which is only £8. If you book that ticket, you might be sitting next to me.
And what's the restriction?
Oh, there's extra legroom. There's basically a walkway, and basically means there's extra legroom. That is the restriction.
That's not restricted.
as far
That's
as
great.
I know.
Bargain.
And Bryony means a lot to me and Beth, because that's where we first properly met doing Bryony's Weekend Workshop Summer School, which I highly recommend if you ever want to create a solo show. So we're really looking forward to it.
There's another couple of shows coming up at the same time as I'm a Phoenix Bitch is on at Battersea Arts. The first is Skate Hard, Turn Left, which is a collaboration between theatre makers and roller derby skaters. That's going to be amazing.
I mean, what is not to love about
like,
that?
just, I don't need to know any more to know I want to see that. And that is on October 9th till the 13th.
Brittany, the amazing comedy duo, is back with their show of the same name, Brittany, on at Battersea Arts Centre. It follows their friendship as Charlie, it's based on a true story. Charlie develops a brain tumour, and Ellen, her best friend, helps her through that time. It involves sketch comedy, impersonations, Harry Potter references. Go see it, it's hilarious. It's on for 2 nights on October the 16th and 17th at Battersea Arts Centre.
Moving slightly away from London, at the Mercury Theatre in Colchester, there is a new play called Silence, which is about 3 generations of Polish-British women. So it's a grandmother, mother, daughter relationship, and it's about moving from Poland to Britain and their kind of culture, community and history. And it is October 12th to 20th, Silence at Mercury Theatre Colchester.
Burgers. The new show by Travis Alabanza, which is about after someone threw a burger at them and called them the F word, performance artist Travis Alabanza became obsessed with burgers. So this play explores that, which is on at Hackney Showroom October the 23rd till November the 3rd. If you don't follow Travis on Twitter, I highly recommend it, because they have been they've been doing lots of interviews and talking about how their work can only be pigeonholed as kind of one thing. And I highly recommend you follow them.
Also follow them on Instagram because they do amazing pics.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah. White Teeth is up next at the newly renamed Kiln Theatre in Kilburn. So this is an adaptation of the novel by Zadie Smith, and it is directed by Kiln's artistic director, Indu Rubisingham. So it's really exciting to see the next direction that she's taking in this theatre with the whole rebranding of it, which has caused a bit of controversy actually. The rebranding, renaming. There was some like old middle class white people protesting outside, saying they didn't like the name Kiln. They wish it would go back to the old name.
Oh my
for no
God.
reason.
The most
No reason that I could
protest.
discern, no matter how much time I spent looking at their website, could I figure out, other than the fact that it's just always been called Tricycle. Why change it? But Indy decided to change it, so we're going to go and see White Teeth at Kiln, and that's on from October 26th to December 22nd, so that's a good long run, so you might as well catch that.
Speaking of phenomenal women, which is actually a Maya Angelou reference, the Blactress season is upon us. We actually spoke to Sherelle, who is one of the co-founders of Blactress, in our Fun Home episode. So listen to that if you want to find out what Blactress is, but you should know anyway. So they are having a season which is starting now from the October 4th till December the 22nd, showcasing new work by Black women of a range of all ages. Also, because it is Black History Month, we very much suggest that you go and support Black women, particularly in theatre. Each production has 2 dates, so head over to their website for the full season rundown.
And there's a few more shows returning that we enjoyed at Edinburgh Fringe this year. So they've got London dates booked for you to check out. The first is It's True, It's True, It's True by Breach Theatre, which is running at New Diorama Theatre from October 16th to November 10th. And then there's Pickle Jar by Maddie Rice, which is on at Soho Theatre from October 23rd to November 10th. If you want to know more about those, you can read our Edinburgh blog, because we wrote about them on there. Next up, we've got a couple of recommendations, finally, from the Royal Court Theatre. The first is Debbie Tucker-Green has a show in the main space at the Royal Court Theatre, Ear for an Eye, that one's called, and it's October 25th to November 24th. And then Still No Idea, which is co-produced with Improbable Theatre, and it is about 2 best friends who, it's a follow-up from a show they did previously where they went out into the streets and asked the public what they should make a show about, and then they took the public's description and made it into a piece of theatre, and then they followed it up with Still No Idea, because it's 10 years since they did that, and they kind of want to see whether perceptions of them have changed when they go out into the public, and whether the world has changed with regards to representation, because their friendship is visible in the public eye as being one of the friends is using a wheelchair and the other one is not. And so that's kind of influences the public's perception of what kind of story they should be telling. So you got 2 shows at the Royal Court Theatre, end of October till the middle of November. that's all the recommendations we've got time for.
Thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye.